I used to stand by the dusty road every December waiting for Madame Inobon's car to appear. She was my childhood friend in Mem's Madam. Every Christmas, they returned to the village. The car loaded with bright packages, perfumes that lingered long after the booth closed, and clothes that made Imem look like she lived in a palace. I would watch her smooth, soft hands, no cracks from fetching water, as she pulled gift after gift from the car trunk, and I would whisper to myself, one day I'll follow a madam to the city too. That Christmas, I took a bold step. I walked up to Madame Inobon. My voice shook, but I said it anyway. Ma, if you ever need another help, I'm ready. She looked at me for a moment, then smiled. I'll keep that in mind, she said. The following Christmas, she returned, but not alone this time. She came with another woman, healthy looking, dripping in gold, Madame Edidion. Right there in my father's compound, the proposal was made. Not for marriage, though. My parents smiled and nodded before I could even think. To them, it was an answered prayer. Someone to take me to the city, send me to school, pay me, and still bring Christmas gifts home every year. Before I left, I told my friends, you'll never see me living in this wretched village again. When I return, I will come in my own car as a big madam. I promised my parents I would change their lives. I thought my own life was about to begin. I was only 15 when my father told me goodbye. His voice was heavy, but his eyes were hopeful. The kind of hope that sits in a man's chest when he believes life might finally give his child a better hand. They said, Madam would take care of me, feed me, send me to school, and give me stipends. That morning, I left our mud-walled house with a small nylon bag of clothes and my mother's soft palm lingering on my cheek longer than usual. She didn't say much. She didn't have to. Mothers know the truth even when hope tries to cover it. The city smelled different. Fuel fumes mixed with dust and hot bread from roadside stalls. Madam's compound was large, the gates tall, the walls painted the color of old cream. I followed her into the house, my feet bare against the cold tiles. The first rule came quickly, like a slap in the air. Girl, before you enter this house, you remove your slippers. Understand? I nodded. That day, I learnt my place. I was not daughter, I was girl. The one who swept before dawn, washed plates before the sun yawned, fetched water before my own eyes were fully open. There weren't entirely no choice, except that I had no assistance and the timing was different. Madam's shop was where most of my hours bled away. It was small but packed with goods. Provisions stacked high on dusty shelves, the air thick with the smell of cardboard and sugar. From morning till evening, I stood there, selling, counting change, chasing flies. School? Madam said there was no need for me to go yet. She'd say I'll start next term. I asked too often. She reminded me she was feeding me and that my parents should be grateful. Her own daughter, Ini, wore crisp uniforms and shiny shoes. Every school day, I was to wait for the call from the gate man and take a footpath to our class during break time. It was never late, never cold. Madam made sure of that. Sometimes, as I walked into the school compound with that neat food flask in my hand, I'd feel the weight of my own empty stomach. I'd see the walls of school that I can never attain. At night, lying on my thin mat in the corridor, I'd whisper the prayers my mother taught me. I carried her God with me, the God of small villages and mud walls, who still heard the cry of a girl in the city. When hunger bit, I reminded myself of our words. Funny so, you are never truly alone when you carry God in your heart. And though Madam's house pressed me like a cage, I found sacred strength in scripture. The thoughts I think toward you are thoughts of peace, not of evil. All things work together for good to them that loved the Lord. Her church was full of singing and tongues, but at home her hands were quick to strike. I could have grown bitter, but I chose silence. I chose prayer. I chose to believe that my story would not end in that shop. I grew leaner quicker, my hands roughened from scrubbing and lifting. Sometimes I caught my reflection in the shop's glass counter and hardly recognized the girl staring back. But I kept dreaming in secret. Each night, as I folded the shop's empty sacks and stacked them neatly, I imagined they were the foundation of my own future, the invisible bricks I was laying. I began putting aside small monies customers gave me as tips. A crumpled 50 naira here, a dirty 20 there, hidden deep in an old biscuit pocket under my mat. It wasn't much, but it was mine. And in those long, earliest afternoons in the shop, I'd plan. One day, I'd have a business, my own. One day, I'd go back home not as the girl they sent away, but as someone who made it. Change didn't happen overnight. I knew I couldn't just pack my bag and walk away. That would mean going back to the village empty-handed. So I waited patiently for the right time. I made friends quietly. The tomato seller opposite, the meat woman near the gate, the spare parts trader who had a kind smile. Sometimes These traders would offer me tips. Customers like it when you smile, even if you're tired. My biggest ally turned out to be Mrs. Passy, a plump woman who sold sewing materials 2 stalls away. One afternoon, she called me aside and pressed a 500 naira note into my palm. "For your own pockets," she said with a wink. Over the next 3 years, I kept adding to my savings, sometimes from tips, sometimes from helping neighbors run errands. I never touched it, no matter how hungry I was. Madam's voice could cut glass. A mistake with change would come with a slap. Returning late, no dinner. Clothes torn from overuse, managed. She would always look for excuse to maltreat me. There was no school and no salary, just promises. Next month, Mfoniso. When business picks up, Mfoniso. Yet I kept enduring and trusting God. Then came the breaking point. One rainy Saturday, Madam sent me to deliver groceries to her sister's house across town. I returned hours later, soaked to the skin, only for Madam to scream and beat me mercilessly for leaving the shop unattended. She may have forgotten she sent me on another errand. She may have forgotten I told her there was no one else in the shop. But who could remind her? I had been warned that speaking up would only worsen my punishment. That night, as I lay shivering on my mattress, my body aching from the blows, I began to count what I had. Not just the crumpled notes in the biscuit packet, but the skills I'd gathered like stray seeds. How to measure stock, how to greet customers, how to stretch a small amount of food until it fed many. I started asking quiet questions, the kind that wouldn't raise suspicion. How much was rent for a small stall in the market? Where did traders get their goods? Every answer became another brick in the invisible bridge I was building, one that would carry me away from this house toward a life of my own choosing. My savings could not yet start my own shop, but they were enough to pay 1 month's rent somewhere. On a quiet Tuesday morning, I rose before everyone, packed my bags and left. I found work as a cleaner in a pharmacy where a nurse noticed my determination and encouraged me to attend evening classes. One step at a time, I climbed, passed my exams, trained as a nurse, specialized in public health. Eventually, I started my own NGO to run medical outreaches across Akwa Ibom. 5 years later, a silver Toyota Corolla turned off the dusty road into Ikorobiofon. Inside, I was gripping the steering wheel with steady hands. The car was mine. I had come with bags of rice, belts of clothes, and an envelope of cash for my parents. Word spread quickly through the village. My parents could hardly believe their eyes. My mother hugged so tightly, tears rolling down her cheeks. "My daughter, you have done well." A week into my visits, I heard that Madam Eno's family had fallen on hard times. The shop had closed, her husband had lost his job, and they were struggling to pay school fees. One of my relatives whispered, "Now she will see what you have become. Now she will know." But I smiled. One morning, I drove to Madam's compound with a bag of rice, a carton of milk, and an envelope containing 250,000 naira. Madam stood at the doorway, her face frozen in shock. You've changed." "Yes, madam," I replied, handing her the gifts. "You took me in once. This is just to say thank you." As I drove away, the afternoon sun filtering through the trees, I felt no bitterness, only peace. I had kept my promise to myself. I had left as a poor, humiliated girl, but I returned as a woman who could stand tall. When God rewrites your story, no bitterness can stain it. Rise, forgive, and shine. Thank you for watching to the end. Please don't forget to turn on your notification.